في لقاء مع الشرق رجحت المديرة العامة لصندوق النقد الدولي كريستالينا غورغييفا استكمال الإجراءات المتبقية لقرض تونس في غضون أسابيع. إليكم المقابلة كاملة والتي أجرتها الزميلة نور عماشة.
أهلا بكم إلى هذه المقابلة الخاصة مع مديرة صندوق النقد الدولي كريستالينا غورغييفا. Welcome and thank you for joining us in this interview. So the IMF has projected that the inflation will exceed 10% in this region, and this is of course exacerbated by the strength of the dollar. How will these countries be able to withstand all of those pressures, especially that a lot of this is caused by exogenous variable that is beyond their ability to control?
Let me first clarify that this is a very diverse region. For the Gulf countries, inflation is moderate and it would remain so. They benefit from the fact that they're pegged to the dollar. For the rest of the region, indeed, this is very difficult, and I see two reasons for some optimism. The first one is we project the world economy to slow down this year, but to avoid in most places recession. And that on its own means that there would be a better momentum for everyone. Secondly, because in the United States the fight against inflation seems to be bringing fruit, that would mean that we might expect the tightening of financial conditions to moderate, and that would translate into the dollar somewhat slowing down its pressure on the rest of the world. But of course, countries have to take action on their own. And it is to avoid monetary financing that would add domestically pressures on inflation, and to continue with what has worked, and it is strong reforms that improve the competitiveness and performance of economies.
Speaking of reforms, GCC countries have provided $54 billion worth of aid to the region as per what you said yesterday during the past 5 years. How will the role of those countries be reinforced, especially that we have heard from Saudi and Kuwaiti officials that all aid in the coming future has to be intertwined with reforms?
The lesson that we learned from COVID is that countries with strong fundamentals withstand shocks much better than those that do not have economic policies that give them strength. The same way people with strong immune systems withstand the hit of COVID. So it is very important to continue to build strength through structural reforms and improvements in education, in the role of private sector to generate jobs and growth, and in productivity conditions in countries. And in that sense, the IMF works very closely with our members to give them this strength. So when the next shock hits, they are in better position to withstand it.
Can these countries wait until those structural reforms come into place? Do they have the privilege of time here?
I want to express my very deep sympathy to people in countries that are hit by exogenous shocks. So for no fault of their own, they find themselves in very difficult condition. And at the same time, to say that when we look into the future in a world that is going to be more shock prone because of climate change and also because of the speed with which change affects societies, to withstand, you need to build resilience. And what does it mean? Resilient people that are educated, healthy, with good social protection under their feet, resilient societies that are more inclusive, that are fairer, in which the distribution of opportunities is done in a way that it increases resilience of societies. And of course, we need a resilient planet. Is the speed of benefits of reforms significant. In countries that are decisive, they see these benefits coming fairly quickly, especially when they translate into strong image of determination that means attractiveness for investment flows, for more financing for their growth programs.
Which is what Egypt is trying to do. Last week was eventful in Egypt. We saw Moody's downgrade the sovereign debt for Egypt. And we saw at the same time, the second day, the Egyptian authorities increased the number of companies, the public companies, that they are willing to list or sell shares in from 20 to 32. How will this step really reinforce those reforms, help in fulfilling the IMF requests and the IMF conditions for the program that has been given to Egypt?
Egypt is one of those innocent bystanders. Egypt has done well to reform its economy, and then it got hit by COVID, and particularly severely by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, because it led to loss of revenues in tourism and to very strong push up of food prices. So for Egypt to continue on a better path, yes, the country needs to continue to create more space for the private sector to deliver benefits to the Egyptian people. Egypt has to create 1 million jobs every year because of growing population. And how can these jobs be created? Of course, by private sector initiative domestically and by attracting foreign investments. And in that sense, the decision of the government to move in a very determined and prudent manner ahead with privatization is one that we welcome very much. We will see the fruits of this action through more investment in Egypt, through more jobs created by the
Will it improve your outlook on Egypt?
Yes, I expect that to be the result of it. We are going to have our first review of our program with Egypt in March. We have been following very carefully how Egypt is acting, and I must say we see very positive signs for the review to be completed on time and successfulyou.
Speaking of March, also a delegation from the IMF will visit Lebanon in March. If we're speaking now to the Lebanese authorities, if they're hearing you, what message do you send the Lebanese officials and the Lebanese people?
To the Lebanese officials, implement the actions you committed to. To the Lebanese people, my heart goes to you. You have had hard time. Time for the Lebanese authorities to turn the page and give a better prospect to everybody in Lebanon.
Tunis, and quickly, the IMF program in Tunis has been stalled many times. Can the IMF play the role of the mediator between the different Tunisian parties in order to get this done?
We have been working very closely with the Tunisian authorities, and they have made very good progress on the actions that are necessary for us to go to board. We also have heard from the Friends of Tunisia that financial support for Tunisia is forthcoming. So I expect to see in the next weeks, not in months, a conclusion of the remaining actions so we can go to board and Tunisia can get the support from the IMF and from its partners that are affiliated with this program.
So it's just a matter of few weeks?
It is a matter of weeks, yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Kristalina Georgieva, the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund. Thank you for this interview.